Welcome to Have You Heard, where we talk about issues at the intersection of agriculture and engineering. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, Morgan Hayes and Josh Jackson.
Welcome. This is the Have You Heard podcast. This is episode 39. We're going to give us a quick update on fall calving today. I'm Morgan Hayes, an assistant professor in Biosystems and Ag Engineering at the University of Kentucky, focusing on livestock facilities. And in my personal life, my husband and I farm in Boyle County, Kentucky. It's about a 500-acre commercial cattle and hay operation.
And I'm Josh Jackson, assistant professor in Biosystems and Agriculture Engineering as well. I farm in Mercer County. In professional life, focus on precision livestock farming. In personal life, we focus on raising and registering cattle and hay production.
Okay, Josh. So let's start off with a little bit about what's been happening on the farm this week. Our topic is obviously fall calving, so part of it's going to be fall calving. We can save that. But what else have you been working on?
Working on getting a little bit of hay down. So we have some that we've been meaning to do. So put some down yesterday and working on it as well today. And then still repairing some other equipment, but most of our hay equipment is actually going. And then also looking at what I fertilized before, and it does seem to be making a difference. Maybe It could be mentally, but it does seem to be making a difference.
Yeah, we're working on repairs, typical. A little bit of bush hogging right now.
Okay.
Obviously, calving is taking up a significant amount of time right now. And aside from that, we have other projects around the house and things like that to work on.
All right. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
And the fence line, the one fence line is definitely done. We talked about that.
Yeah, the fence line is done. That's good. The cows are now able to rotate the way they need to, which is positive. And we're sort of planning out what we need to do for fall working of cattle, which we're only about a month out from at this point, just figuring out exactly what we want to do there as well. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I think we have, I guess, we'll go ahead and jump into some of our, calving updates. So our calves, most of that first group is on the ground. So most of our AI bred is on the ground at this point.
Okay.
And so that's about 29 animals or so. And so we have them separated on two different farms. So heifers on one farm and our cows on the other. So heifers are a spot where you can get to them a little easier, watch them a little better, directly behind the house. So really being able to monitor them closely.
Right.
And so then we pretty much just have some of our stragglers that are coming up. So ones who haven't calved. So they'll probably be another 3 weeks out at least.
Okay.
That's what we expect.
Yeah.
So most of them have calved already. I guess, how is yours going?
About the same. We're over 50% done. We're probably 65% of the way there. It's interesting. We typically in the fall will have a very heavy load very early, and then it sort of trickles through. We've had very consistently one or two a day, basically since the 25th or so of August. So that's sort of an interesting dynamic, not our typical dynamic in our cow herd. On our heifer side, we have everything on the ground but one calf.
That's great.
Yeah, so there's one heifer still to calve. It's been a pretty good season for us. We've had two sets of twins.
Okay.
One set of twins is staying with the mother. One twin, we pulled the second calf off. It's an older cow. She's in her mid-teens.
Okay.
So she's definitely older. Mid-teens doesn't sound that old in human years, but in cow years, that's a very old cow.
Yes.
And she's a great genetic cow, and this is actually her fourth set of twins.
Wow.
So I don't know. I don't know how much time we want to spend discussing it, but it's clearly a genetic thing on hers that she's throwing twins.
Four set of twins. I guess it's probably different bulls, so it's
yeah, all different bulls. And she's thrown with multiple bulls, twins. This one was a 75-pound and a 65-pound heifer, both heifers.
Wow, so she's not even throwing small.
No,
small
she's
twins.
not. She's not throwing small twins. And actually, the other set of twins we had was out of a heifer, and she also threw fairly large twins, considering that she was bred for
calving ease.
Yeah, calving ease. So she threw two pretty decent sized ones, but hers were both in their 60s. So
were they late calving, or you think they were a little later, I guess, along their gestation, you think, or better developed?
The one out of the older cow is definitely her just throwing old school Solier genetics. She's just a big framey animal, and she throws bigger calves.
Okay.
So that's not really a surprise. The other one, actually, I was surprised that they were both as big as they were. They were clearly full term. There was nothing that came early out of her, which is nice to see. And she kept two, and we'll see. She's on a farm with a group of heifers that we can manage for rebreeding. They may get some feed anyway. She may be one that needs a little extra care to get her rebred, but it's a lot of work to have calves on bottle.
Yes, it is.
And currently we're expecting a little one in like 2 weeks, so having two calves on bottle and a newborn at the same time seems like a lot at my house. So
a lot of additional stress.
A little extra stress. So we didn't want any calves on bottle, but we currently have one there.
Okay.
So we're up on calves to cows. Our ratio is still leaning towards more calves on the ground than there are cows that have calved.
But 2 sets of twins, as long as you get them to weaning, that's definitely getting you some extra pounds there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think there's been a lot of work. There was a twinning herd at the U.S. Meat Animal Research Center for a number of years, and there's a lot of research on whether twins are cost effective or not. And it doesn't seem like the benefits outweigh the challenges with it in terms of dystocias, extra management, extra feed costs. Yep. Sometimes it doesn't really pay out to have twins come, but at the same time, if we can get both of them to market, that's a good thing. So
yeah, if they both get to market, get past those first couple weeks.
Yeah, and so fortunately, the one twin that we pulled is doing really good on a bottle, and we have one bottle calf that's still living on the farm with us, so we have plenty. It's on feed now, not on milk anymore, although it would like to join the other calf on milk again. It's like, wait a second, I remember this. So
that's good. And it turned out our set of twins was actually, it was 2 cows at calf, but the one calf just hung around this other cow.
Oh, it just sort of imprinted a little bit.
Imprinted a little bit more on this cow and calf, and so the other cow was always around. So we're just like, she's always nearby, but she just didn't look like she was sunken enough. But eventually we finally caught her nursing.
Yeah. Have you had any losses this year?
Haven't had any losses this fall, knock on wood. Okay. So it seems to be going fairly well. And we've always had fairly good experience with the fall. So the fall we can usually get about 100% typically. And, we might have... Usually if we had an issue, it was a heifer right off the bat that usually caught us by surprise.
Yeah. We had one calf come... and it passed away after about a day and a half. It had a mutation, so it had a genetic issue.
Yep.
And so there was nothing that we could have done about it. We pulled it up. We thought maybe it wasn't getting good milk or good colostrum. We gave it extra. That didn't help. And then it was obvious once we evaluated it further that there was a
genetic issue.
There was an issue with its digestive tract. So it just couldn't process food and excrete correctly. So. That's not pleasant, but it is the reality that when you have that many calves come every year, that eventually you do have some that have.
With the Angus Association, we try to minimize, the ones we're using that are carriers,
right,
or potential carriers.
Yeah, well, and this is a crossbred. It's a crossbred cow, and the bull was not of either of the breeds that the mother was. So it's unlikely it was a genetically carried disease. It was probably more likely a mutation that happened in utero.
Yeah.
A shame, frustrating, always frustrating to lose one. Right. Always frustrating when you think you're paying really good attention and you lose one.
But then it turns out there's nothing you could really do in that situation.
No, there's not. And that happens sometimes. So we're still actually up a calf on the year.
Still up with 2 sets of twins. You're still...
Yeah. If it wasn't a heifer, we would probably try and graft one of those twins to her. But she didn't have a strong mothering instinct anyway. Like, she wasn't a particularly aggressive mother. So grafting one onto her would be a little trickier. And she didn't have a huge amount of milk. It seemed like a dicey thing to try and do. We've had a lot of success grafting calves in the past, but this time we just decided it was easier. There's only so much fighting I can do right now with a cow and calf. I'm pretty concerned about getting kicked.
Yes.
So we're going to make the decision just to feed the calf with the bottle and take our licks that way. So
yeah, because definitely a cow. Yeah, getting the cow to grass sometimes it can be a challenge for like at least a week-long experience. Week-long, maybe 2 weeks of pushing that cow to take that calf.
Yeah, grafting can be really tricky. So So that was our decision this year, and I'm not unhappy with it, but it is certainly interesting. So,
Huh. We're also decided at the same time we're also kitting out some of the goats as well.
oh, are you?
Yep. And so if we've done fairly well, we've lost one or two here and there, but it's usually
Typically, are your goats going to throw twins, or what are they throwing?
they're throwing twins usually. So
Okay.
typically they're throwing twins. And these are the set that we have had some that throw in three, but typically they're throwing twins.
That's not
And
too
so
bad.
it's been fairly good thus far. We did lose one goat, but it wasn't to anything in particular. We had a hay bale out there, and it was just sitting on the ground. They ate it until it was a mushroom, then it fell on one of the goats.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that was just frustrating because we saw it happen. It's like we've seen it before. Okay, we need to tip that over at some point, and then they went ahead and fell on one of the goats, and so we weren't out there at that point. So
Yeah, it's always hard to manage some of that. We have some steers in the barn that they have a water tank that we manually fill, and they've decided that their job is to poop in the tank. I don't know why. The tank in there that's supposed to be an automatic, they've never pooped in, and it's the same spot in the barn, but they, for whatever reason, continue to poop in the refillable tank. I don't know if they want us to keep dumping water to make it cooler on the ground to get a lot of mud to lay in. You'd think they were pigs, actually, but they're not. They're actually cows. Large steers, frustratingly large steers. So we've actually had to move our water tank around. Not exactly the same issue, but just from a management perspective, putting it behind a panel so that they can't actually get into the tank, just to protect them and our own sanity. So
yes.
there's always something happening on the farm to frustrate you beyond all belief, in that has been ours for the last month and a half.
Even in our fields, we have that tire tank. We put a hay ring around it just because the animals will get in there. Or they'll.
Yep.
So we just put a hay ring around it and just said, "This is how it has to be." Apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have your calves up against the tire tank, or do you wait till they're a little bigger?
So they're actually out there with the tire tank. So some of them are out there. If there are heifers, they're actually out there with our tire tank.
Okay.
Because we can keep them close by, and it makes it easier to watch them. So
do you have issues with the calves with the tire tank or not?
I've to date I have no issues with it.
Okay.
It haven't had any calves fall in or drown.
Or even try and climb into it?
I haven't had the calves climb into it, but we still have that. We do have the hay ring there.
Yeah.
We do have the hay ring there, and they can drink from it. There is one section where they can get close to it and drink from it, but we haven't had any issues, knock on wood,
Okay.
thus far with them in the hay ring.
I probably shouldn't have asked that question. I probably just jinxed you for all eternity now. But I hope not. I was just curious if that was an issue.
We do have a couple of calves. They're out there. Another set. This is the cows. They're out there in a have adjacent. They have access to a pond.
Okay.
Potentially, most of it comes from a water tank, but they do have access to the pond because we bush hogged it and it grew up fairly well. So we might as well have them eat it as opposed to just bush hogging. Yeah. So they do have access to that.
Yeah.
And we haven't had any issues. Knock on wood.
Yeah. I think a lot of young animals figure out how to manage around water just by watching their mothers. But I was always curious with the tire tank because sometimes animals like to try and almost climb into it. I wondered if the calves also thought that would be a fun.
We usually, we've had our other cows and sometimes the heifers out there, they'll actually climb in there. So that's why I had to put the ring around it just to prevent them from if it was a hot day.
Right.
If it was a hot day, they climb in there and kind of just mull around.
Yeah. It's been nice that we've had cooler weather. When we talk about calving and the fall season, it can be very warm. We start pretty early. We start our calving in mid-August, which is earlier than a lot of people do here in central Kentucky. So our spring calving is later than most people, and our fall calving is earlier than a lot of people's. But it just happens to be what works for us on our farm and our timing system. But this year has been very good because we've gotten a nice break in the heat for a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
And I think the cows have really enjoyed that in late pregnancy.
And, we still have, and with the rain that we did get, it's like we've had a decent amount of forage available to them as well. So we still put some hay out there. We've been putting hay out and for them to munch on, but we just want to have plenty of material out there for them to eat. But the grass would be able to sustain them, but we would just want to make sure we cover our bases.
Yeah. We've brought ours up into what is our sacrifice lot. our cow herd. Our heifers are out on pasture. They have plenty of lush forage to eat on, but our cows we've actually brought up just for management, the farm that they're on, getting them to a working facility if we did have to pull. It's just much easier to have them in this lot specifically. Plus, it's closest to water, and it's bush hogged, and it doesn't have huge numbers of trees, so we can find the calves when they come.
A lot easier.
Yeah, so for a number of reasons, it makes checking simpler, but that means we are putting out hay right now, which is a cost. On the other hand, it's protecting a lot of our fields. We'll stockpile some grass on some fields, and we'll be able to do late grazing then, hopefully. Unfortunately, we've actually missed a number, not all of the rains. We've missed a significant amount of the rain that's come in the last couple weeks.
Okay.
So we're still a little bit dry. Not dry enough to be in drought conditions, but definitely on the drier end. We could use another inch or two of rain right now, pretty significantly. I know northern Kentucky is very wet. I know that even on your end, I mean, Josh and I only live 20-ish miles apart. Yeah, but the rain has been significantly different. Even in Danville itself versus where we live on the western end of the county, you can tell that there's probably been an inch or an inch and a half of rain difference. Because I drive into work, I go sort of through Danville and then up through Garrett County. It's very obvious that certain areas have had more rain and other areas have missed it. And South Central, we went down towards Bowling Green the other day, and it's very dry.
Oh, really?
As you sort of head south from our house in that South Central Kentucky, I think they've missed a number of rains as well. Not full drought, but you can tell that the corn is getting very dry. Some of it's already turning. And so I think it's interesting to see all that happening.
Yeah, that can be good, and I guess the dry out can be good for, I guess, the corn guys, trying to get some stuff harvested. And we're, like I said, doing some hay. So for us, that drying trend is a little bit good, but yeah, definitely getting concerning to some degree. I know we had 2019 was the hottest and driest September on record.
Yeah, and so we're not that dry, certainly, by any stretch, nor are we that hot, actually, thank goodness. Yeah. That's the one thing I will say is that it's because it's been cooler, we're still getting dew at night, there's still some moisture around, it's just not as much as we might like for our grasses.
The moisture balance is not quite where it should be.
Yeah, so we're hoping for a little more rain. We're still watering some trees, doing some things like that, just trying to protect.
Because you just planted those trees.
Yeah, some younger trees that we planted last winter, so plenty to keep us busy. But yeah, the forage, at least on our farms where we're rotating well, is good. On our farm that we have more trouble getting the cows up, we've just bit the bullet and we're going to feed some hay for 3 weeks. Hopefully that'll get us most of the calves on the ground, and then we can put them out on pastures that have a little bit more of a walk back to the water tank and back to the working facility.
And like with these calves you have you had any trouble with scours, or do you guys do any calf foot vaccinations, or do you do any treatments, ADE or BOSI, or just tagging, or?
We tag and weigh everything when it hits the ground. We haven't been giving any vitamins or anything at birth. Everything's been very healthy. We have had one cow who didn't clean herself. I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, and so she was a work in progress, and actually her calf ended up sick. Something that's known, at least anecdotally in the industry, is like joint ill.
Okay.
Which is when usually they pick it up through the navel, but in this case, probably because the mother was sick, she probably picked it up from the mother, because the mother definitely was sick. She was not feeling well.
Definitely shut in some bacteria, probably.
And so the calf so the mother got treated, the mother got cleaned, the calf got treated, the calf got another round of Banamine, which is basically an anti-inflammatory to almost an NSAID, basically, just to make it feel better, just to make sure it kept up and kept nursing. Right. And then after about a week, when it got over it, thank goodness. Sometimes they get down with it and there's really not much you can do, but we caught it early and got her treated. So everything seems to be doing well. That's the only disease we had, and that I think is directly related to the mother having been sick.
To the mom being sick. And we've been still putting the iodine on the bellies, so trying to prevent the navel ill, and then we give ours a shot of BOSI and a shot of ADE. So I said we, it's a colloquial we, so it's been mostly Joey doing the catching the calves. My other brother.
Whoever's on the farm is the one
on the farm
gets that job.
But yeah, we've been doing that for most all the calves. So pretty much all the calves.
I think that's a pretty good update. I think we're both doing pretty well with calving here. Hopefully things continue to go well. And I think with that, we'll just end with anything else you're planning to do next week on the farm?
Probably some baling and rake and bale. And then probably hopefully move another set. I think we got to move another set of cows home to calve in another 2 weekends.
Okay. So you got a few more that are going to calve. You're going to move them around so that you're ready. Everything we have is where they're supposed to be, hopefully. We're sort of in that position where we're at the end of my pregnancy right now. And so we're figuring out what we need to do so that if we have to disappear from the farm at any given day, that someone else can take charge of all the animals that are left. But fortunately, getting through all the heifers calving before I calve is important because that allows for a lot less stress on everyone, including us, while we're stuck at the hospital.
I know for me, it's just getting together a list of like a checklist almost for other people to run through on a daily basis and say, this is what we need to do. That's helped me as far as getting other individuals ready to go if I'm gone from the farm. Exactly.
And so for us, it's like which cows haven't calved so they know which ones to look for, which calves are the most recent so they know who are the youngest calves to check most closely to try and identify if they can't find them all. Hopefully they can find all the calves at least once a day, but just generally things that we would want to have happen.
Okay.
Plus, of course, we've got a bottle calf now. Someone's going to have to feed
feed that calf twice a day on a daily basis.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what's happening, at least on our farm, is we're just sort of in a holding pattern, but also busy, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
See you later.
Have You Heard is a production of the University of Kentucky College of Agriculture, Food and Environment, along with the Department of Biosystems and Agricultural Engineering. Discover what's wildly possible at ca.uky.edu.